Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to another wonderful episode of The Educated Fan. Almost did the again there. I would have been the first slip up since we made the name change. My name's Brandon, and I'm joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Sir, how was your weekend?
Not too bad. We had a little kind of family emergency. Had to head on up to South Bend with the fiance's family, but all looks to be good now. But hey, training camp starts this week, and I'm excited to talk about it. We're finally going to see actual football, see everything we've talked about all season, and I'm excited to see what happens. How was your week, man?
My week was fine. Bad Beats with Brandon episode yesterday went 3 out of 4. But if you would have just picked fighters, if you just would have picked the fighters that I picked without picking the method of victory, or at least on the last fight, you would have won all 4. I picked all 4 fights right. I just didn't pick the very last fight, the method of victory. That one was a little off. If I'd have hit that, I'd have, been a real happy. I actually upset Camper because I didn't actually make the bets because I can't here in Washington. But if anybody else would have hit because of me, been happy with that. Real quick.
There you go.
Show off our cups here, Andrew, as we do now. Every cup begins with K, cup with a K, K-U-P. Go check her out on Facebook. We've shared her link to her Facebook group multiple times. If you buy something from her, let her know that we sent you. We love the cups. They're really cool. She loves doing them. So give her a fun project to work on and let her know that Brandon and Andrew sent you from The Educated Fan. Now, Andrew, we've got training camp preview. We've got linebacker group preview. We've got new kid at school, and we've got NFC North breakdown. Let's get into the training camp. Rookies and quarterbacks have reported as of yesterday. Is it anybody new show? Does anybody new show up today? Did I miss that news today?
Not today. So yesterday, it is basically quarterbacks, rookies, and anyone that hasn't had a full first year or full season in the NFL, and then everybody else reports Tuesday. First practice is Wednesday, so we're a few days away now, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, you are going to be able to make it out to training camp a couple times, most likely. I obviously, being in Seattle, I'm not going to be able to. But, these days you do get to see quite a bit of videos and whatnot via Twitter, the internet. The media's there. Are you going to be credentialed? Do we know yet? Have we? I know I ask you like every week.
Not yet. I know Sports Illustrated is working on it for me. So if so, then I will get credentials. Hopefully here, because I'm planning on going this weekend on Saturday, checking it out, and I'll also be live tweeting from training camp as well, different things that I see and different things that I notice. So follow our podcast account, and it's going to be fun. I'll try to get some insider information for everyone. All
right, Andrew, the big story for the Colts this year, obviously Carson Wentz. I mean, that's the number one. The number one story this offseason, us acquiring Carson Wentz. What do we want to see out of Carson Wentz during training camp? What, when we're watching?
Yeah, and it's kind of tough because obviously Frank Reich and the Colts aren't going to show their entire hand in training camp. But basically what I want to see is Carson Wentz getting comfortable in the Colts scheme. And if he throws a couple interceptions, fine. That's not really what I'm looking for. I want him to be comfortable. I want him to show us and show everybody that he's taking a commanding lead of this offense and kind of showing the chemistry that he's built up with these Colts weapons all throughout OTAs, throughout the spring, throughout the summer, ever since he was traded to the Indianapolis Colts. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for, especially with those wide receivers like T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, all those guys, and just making sure he starts building that rapport early, and that way we have some chemistry heading into that gauntlet of a first 5 games of the season. So I think that's primarily what I'm going to be watching from Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Not necessarily if he's lighting it up like touchdown wise or anything like that, but you can still get a lot out of just basically the body language, how he's handling the offense, and that chemistry that he's building with the weapons.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the biggest thing is going to be, like you said, chemistry with the team and just taking command of the offense. Obviously, he's been in a Frank Reich offense before, so it's not going to be just getting the offense down itself, I don't think is going to be the big challenge for him. It's building that chemistry with the receivers, specifically in tight ends, even running backs. It's going to be, like you said, command of the huddle. That's the kind of things I want to see out of him. I don't mind interceptions either. I mean, you make mistakes in practice. That's where you're supposed to make the mistakes. People will make a big deal out of it. Carson Wentz has thrown his first interception in training camp. I mean, it's going to happen. But I'm really not too worried about Carson. Apparently, people around here, Andrew, up in the Seattle area, which is where the University of Washington is. I went golfing the other day. And I was in the clubhouse paying or whatever, and a guy, he's like, oh, hey, man, how do you feel about Carson Wentz? Like, are you excited? I was wearing my Colts golf polo. And I said, oh, yeah, very excited. Like, people don't realize how good Carson Wentz is going to be this year. And he goes, yeah, man, we'll see. He goes, I'm still thinking Jacob Eason's going to end up starting. I said, wow. I swear to God, my jaw dropped, and I said, what? He goes, yeah, man, he's real good. Like, and I'm like, I get that, like, you guys love Jacob Eason around here, and he was from UW, but like, there's 0% chance of that happening. I mean, we gave up too much for Carson Wentz. Oh my God, I've been holding that story in all week from telling you that. Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe it. Do people actually believe that?
I mean, there's probably some people out there, and the thing is, I mean, that's something else that we're going to see for the first time is we're going to see Jacob Eason against an NFL defense for the very first time. Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see, kind of, because he has been working very, very hard, not only this offseason, but all of last year, soaking all that information in from Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, and really just kind of working to get himself better and acclimated to the NFL game. So it is going to be fun to watch him go up against the NFL defense for the first time, going up against R1s like a DeForest Buckner, a Kenny Moore, a Darius Leonard. So that, I mean, it's going to be a big step for Jacob Eason, and I'm excited to see kind of really what the entire quarterback group does throughout training camp and throughout the preseason.
Yeah. I mean, just in regards to the offense in general, Andrew, begs a question because of the new quarterback situation. What side do you think is going to be more ready for, I guess, do you mean in the beginning of training camp, or like who's going to be more ready for the start of the season?
Kind of a little bit of both. And I do think it's going to be the defense, just because, I mean, like we mentioned, Carson Wentz, it's a new quarterback again for the fourth straight year. It's a new quarterback for a Frank Reich-led team. And while I think Carson Wentz will hit his stride and we're going to see a very successful Carson Wentz, this defense, it's also the fourth year of Matt Eberflus's system, and fourth year of Darius Leonard in it, second year of DeForest Buckner, fourth year of Kenny Moore, and we can go on and on. But this isn't just kind of strictly for the Colts, but a lot of times this is how it is for teams all around the league, is the defense typically starts ahead of the offense once camp starts, just because things are a little bit easier. The chemistry isn't needed to be made on the defensive side of the ball as much as the offensive side of the ball, but as you see the preseason progress and training camp progress, the offense will start to catch up. But I think there's going to be some very fun battles when we get some 11-on-11 work of Carson Wentz going up against a Darius Leonard and seeing what he's got. So I do think the defense will start out, but again, that's another challenge and an interesting storyline to watch throughout training camp, how Carson Wentz handles that and how we can kind of see the Colts offense progress and get better and better throughout the month of August.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious answer, that the defense is going to be ready. There's been less moving pieces on the defense this year than there were the offense. Carson Wentz being, I mean, when you move the biggest piece, I mean, you know what I mean? That affects everybody on that side of the ball. If Darius Leonard or DeForest Buckner weren't on the team anymore, then maybe the conversation would be different. But typically, just in general, the defense is typically going to be more prepared, in my opinion. But then you throw in the whole quarterback switch aspect, and it's the defense. But it's going to be real fun to watch. Just back to the Carson Wentz in general, how he's going to fare against the defense. I don't know. Did we play the Eagles since have we played the Eagles at all since Carson Wentz was in the league?
Yeah, we played him in 2018 when Carson Wentz was coming back. It was Frank Reich's first year with the Colts, and Andrew Luck wasn't quite back yet. So yeah, I don't think we play the Eagles until it might be next year. I think next year, but I think it's
2022. Yeah,
so we'll see.
2022. That would make sense if we played him 2018. Cool. Camp battles, Andrew. Some people think about camp battles of, players against players like DeForest Buckner and Quentin Nelson. Some people, think about Paris Campbell lining up against different DBs, and I'm just curious to see how he does in general. But what we mean when we're talking about camp battles is for positions, obviously. Go ahead. You can go ahead and go first, Andrew. What battle are you most excited to watch?
I really think it's that other outside cornerback position opposite of Xavier Rhodes. So we know Xavier Rhodes is going to have the right cornerback spot. We know Kenny Moore is going to be manning the slot, but who's going to be that starter outside? Right now it's Rock Ya-Sin going into camp. Rock Ya-Sin's been the starter the past couple years, but it's been very inconsistent play from Rock Ya-Sin. So, and Matt Eberflus even said earlier this offseason that it's an open competition, and Rock knows that. So this is a very big year 3 for Rock Ya-Sin. So we've got him that's in the mix. Marvell Tell, who opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID-19, he's back and he's been working on his game. I'm interested to see kind of where he comes back. Towards the end of the year, Isaiah Rodgers was coming on a little bit and showing his playmaking ability at corner. And then TJ Carey's also back. So TJ Carey was probably one of the best free agent signings Chris Ballard made last year. Yeah. And he came in last year when Rock struggled, TJ Carey would take over, and he played pretty well. So I'm excited to see the battle for that outside starting cornerback position, whether Rock can hang on to it or those other guys behind him are going to give him a run for his money.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that next week. Are we doing corners or defensive backs total? I don't remember. Either way, we're going to talk about that in more in depth later. But yeah, and the really nice thing about TJ Carey too is he has depth for that nickel position, that slot corner for Kenny Moore. If something were, God forbid, anything ever happened to Kenny Moore, TJ Carey, not Kenny Moore, but he's a great depth piece to help out there. And when maybe Kenny Moore's tired. Maybe Kenny Moore needs to take a snap off, or he gets a little dinged up and has to come off the field for a few plays. Anything like that, TJ Carey's going to add depth. I'm interested, and we talked about them last week, Andrew, in that other defensive end position. We know Kwity Paye is going to be on the field a lot. I think Chris Ballard has said things that make that pretty apparent. But Tyquan Lewis, Kamoko Toure, and Al-Quadin Muhammad, I mean, we talked last week that it could, by the end of the season, it could be any of those guys. Early in the season, it's probably going to be between Tyquan Lewis and Al-Quadin Muhammad. But Toure throughout, maybe throughout camp, I talked about this last week. I said, who knows? Maybe he just has an outstanding camp. It's unlikely that he ends up starting, early in the season, but definitely as the season goes on, it's going to be interesting to see. He's a real athletic guy, but my guess is Tyquan Lewis. My hope is Tyquan Lewis. We've talked about this together on the show, on Twitter with people. We're not super fond of Al-Quadin Muhammad taking the majority of the snaps, so we're going to have to see. So let's switch over to specific players and who we think might surprise us in camp, or someone you're real interested in watching, Andrew.
Yeah, and kind of just go back to your point about the defensive ends. I agree with you. Sorry. I hope Tyquan Lewis is the one that gets. No, you're fine. I hope Tyquan Lewis is the guy that gets the majority of those snaps. We need to see Tyquan Lewis is in a contract year. We need to see what he's got. See if he has starting potential at that left defensive end position. And right now I would give the edge to Tyquan, and I think that's who's going to start out as the starter, and it has a very good chance of being the starter as we head into week 1. But guys that I'm excited to see, or guys that I think as a guy that I think is going to surprise a lot of people, battle is Kylen Granson. I'm really
Great
excited
pick.
about Kylen Granson. I think I've heard that the Colts coaches are very excited about Kylen Granson and what he can bring to this offense. They wanted that athletic mismatch tight end, and I mean they haven't really had it since Eric Ebron left. They tried with Trey Burton last year, just didn't really work out. So Kylen Granson comes in. He's got that wide receiver background. He's about 6'1", 6'2", about 240 pounds. So he's kind of Trey Burton's size, but he's more athletic than Trey Burton. He can create great separation. Yep. He has very good hands, a good route runner, and is a very big mismatch against linebackers and tight end safeties across the middle of the field. So I think Frank Reich is very excited about that. Carson Wentz also is a guy that loves to throw to tight ends. If you watched him in Philadelphia with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, he relied heavily on the tight end. Yeah. So if Kylen Granson can create those mismatches and get open down the field, I think Carson Wentz and Kylen Granson are going to have a pretty good connection.
I think part of the reason Carson Wentz relied on tight ends so much is they had a couple of really good ones and not great receivers, in my opinion. But so that definitely played a part in it. But yeah, I mean, he loves the tight ends.
Not wrong there.
Frank Reich's offense, it was all about tight end. Not all about, but you get what I'm saying. Frank Reich loves tight ends as well. So I think you're going to see him have a real good camp as well. I'm really interested, and I guess this is kind of more of another positional battle, but I think Mike Strawn might have the potential to surprise us out of the rookie class. I like that we both chose rookies because really we know what we're getting with everybody else. Paris Campbell maybe could be another surprising player to watch in the wide receiver group. I don't have a problem with Paris Campbell. I obviously want the best for Paris Campbell. I need him to prove it. I need him to stay healthy, and I need him to have a good season for me to be real impressed and finally get on the Paris Campbell bandwagon, because my grandpa, I don't watch much college football, obviously, but my grandpa had me real hyped up about Paris Campbell. He's like, you're going to love this guy, I'm telling you, when we drafted him, and we have yet to see it. So, one more camp story, Andrew, in regards to Jacksonville's camp. Apparently, Gardner Minshew can't take a shit because he's too stressed out about this quarterback competition. What? Does he really think he's got a chance at winning the starting job against Trevor Lawrence? That's hilarious.
He doesn't want to be number 2, so he can't take a number 2. So there we go. I mean, of course, when you're an NFL quarterback, you're gonna want to compete for that starting job. Yeah. But I think we all know Trevor Lawrence will be starting from day one.
Yeah, there's no competition going on there. Anything else about camp today, Andrew?
No, I think it's going to be fun to watch. Where there's positional battles all over the field, and I've got a story coming out before training camp starts here, my top 5 battles to watch in training camp. So definitely check that out. But it's going to be fun. We're going to be giving camp battles or camp updates all week or every single week leading up to the games. And Colts season's about to start. It's exciting.
All right, Andrew, let's move it along to a little linebacker preview for the Indianapolis Colts this season. First things first. No more Anthony Walker Jr. Darius Leonard, is going to have to step up and take control of this linebacker group, because even though he's obviously the best player on the defense, probably, if not second best now, maybe, definitely the best linebacker. We had Anthony Walker Jr. On his side next to him, and he was kind of the brains of the linebacking group, as well as just the leader. I assume more of the vocal leader, whereas Darius was, more of the playing leader. But he's going to be the guy. I mean, the only guy. He's got this big extension coming soon. What do you think? How do you think Darius handles all the new leadership responsibilities he's going to have? And let's talk about that extension coming this week too.
Yeah, so Darius Leonard, I think he knows that he needs to be a more vocal leader, not only on the field but also in the locker room. So Darius Leonard, he's always been vocal, always really being that heartbeat and that bringing that energy to this Colts defense. But Anthony Walker was always the guy to keep people in line, kind of keep people in check, and really the guy that people gravitated to as far as advice. He was just one of the main voices in the locker room. But now with Anthony Walker over to the Cleveland Browns, Darius Leonard's got to step up and fill that void. And I think he will rise to the challenge. He talked about it in OTAs, how he's making it a challenge to himself to step up and be more vocal and be more of a vocal leader within the locker room, not only for the linebacking group, but for the entire team as a whole. So I think Darius is going to really accept that and try his best to be a more vocal leader in the locker room. And it's not just going to fall on him. It's going to fall on Bobby Okuriki, who we're going to talk about in a second. He's going to be that full-time starter. He's going to have to step up in leadership as well. But it's just a big void with Anthony Walker because he was one of the main leaders on this team. So those guys are going to have to step up. As regards to Darius Leonard's extension, this guy's going to break the bank. It's Adam Schefter reported this week after the 49ers gave Fred Warner his contract extension, making him the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the league. Adam Schefter reported that he won't be for very long because when the Colts settle on a deal with Darius Leonard, Darius will end up being the highest paid linebacker in the league. And what we're hearing, it's probably going to be 4 years, a little bit more than $19 million a year. And I kind of want to ask you, big money. I kind of want to ask you this question. There were a lot of people out there that were saying that they weren't sure if they were on the fence, if Darius Leonard deserved that money or if we should be paying Darius Leonard that kind of money. What are your thoughts on that?
Whoever's saying that doesn't watch football. That's what I have to say about that. I have no problem making a guy who within the next few years I think is going to be recognized league-wide as the best linebacker in football. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe. It's hard for a guy on the Colts, especially on the Colts defense, to get the recognition he deserves because we're just not a large market. I've talked about this a million times. When you're not Peyton Manning, it's hard to get people's attention. But I truly believe he's going to be viewed as the best linebacker in football. So, you pay the guy the money he wants now. You kick the rocks on him now, try to lowball him, then you run the risk of him, not wanting to extend with the Colts or not wanting to sign after this next contract. Maybe you got to pay him even more money next time because he says, hey, I took a team-friendly deal this past extension. Now I won't broke off. So, I don't have a problem making him the highest paid linebacker. The cap's going to be going up these next few years. Like we can claim to not know, but the cap's going up. NFL Sunday Ticket. I believe next year is the first year it's no longer contracted with DirecTV. I don't imagine the NFL is going to be extending that. The NFL is going to start selling that on their own on a streaming platform, and that's how you're going to get an NFL Sunday Ticket. So they're going to make bank off of that, not having to pay DirecTV. TV deals are where it's at, and the money's going to be going up. So, pay Darius Leonard. There will be more room later. We've got a really, really good cap guy. I can't think of his name. You probably know. And in regards to Darius Leonard taking a different style of a leadership role, Andrew, that step into a spot where you lead with your performance and by example, taking that step into having to hold people accountable is a tough step. But I think they're not paying $19 million to a guy who can't do it.
Right. And you make a good point. And I think people that are saying that they're not thinking of everything through because not only is the cap going to go up, but the thing is too, yes, Darius Leonard has his faults. He's not the perfect linebacker. No. He still has things to work on. Thing is, he's only 26 years old. He'll be 26 in a few days. So he's entering the prime of his career. He's still going to continue to work hard. That will linebacker spot is one of the top 3 most important spots in this entire Colts defense. Yep. And while maybe a lot of Darius Leonard's production is based on and his success is based on his playmaking ability, That's why the Colts drafted him, though. They drafted him because of that playmaking ability. The Colts defense wants to draft playmakers. They don't draft guys just because they're necessarily solid on film. They want guys that turn the ball over. I mean, you think of it, he turns the ball over. Kenny Moore turns the ball over. DeForest Buckner gets back there and is disruptive. Julian Blackmon,
I was going to say Julian Blackmon.
Ball over. Like all of these guys that the Colts draft, they're made to be playmakers on the ball. So
Darius Leonard had the most interceptions on the team 2 years ago. Interceptions.
Right. When you have a guy as talented as Darius Leonard, whether he's the best linebacker in the league or not, I would consider him at least a top 5 linebacker right now in this league.
Yeah.
Right now, the way the NFL works is when you have one of those top guys and they come up for a contract extension, they're going to become the highest paid player at their position in the league. That's just how it goes. Remember a few years ago when Kirk Cousins' contract was up? Kirk Cousins isn't even a top 10 quarterback. Kirk Cousins was the highest paid quarterback in the league. That's just how the league goes. Done it. And you can't you can't afford to have that kind of talent leave your building. And if that talent does leave your building, what does that say to the other people on your Colts team? When Chris Ballard preaches, we want to draft, grow, and re-sign our own, and then they let one of their best players walk. Yeah, doesn't send a good message. So I think the Colts are doing well by re-signing Darius Leonard. It's going to be the highest paid linebacker in the league, and you gotta put your trust that he's going to work hard, be there for the team, and continue to get better and prove that contract is a worthy contract for him through the future.
That'll be getting done this week, most likely, according to Schefter. I just think it's so funny that his is getting done. Braden Smith's is already done, right? Or Braden Smith's is later?
Braden Smith is not done.
Not done. Okay, sorry. I'm thinking Ryan Kelly's was done. So it's just funny to me that his is the first to get done because people were talking about Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson needing extensions. And I told you it was just a couple weeks ago. And somebody's like, well, I think Darius Leonard's the one that just doesn't make he's going to be the one to walk. None of them are walking. Those 3 guys are staying. They're going to be a Colt. Period. The end. It's just too funny. We're going to have to pay DeForest Buckner eventually, too. I don't know when his contract's up. We're going to have to pay him, too. You got to pay people to keep him on your team.
DeForest Buckner, his contract extension begins this year. So
that's right. Because when we signed him, we extended him right away. That's right.
They immediately signed him to a 4-year, $84 million extension. So I think that begins this year. And so Ryan Kelly, we signed last year for his extension. Braden Smith they're hoping to get that done before week 1. Darius Leonard, they're close. Quentin Nelson, I honestly wouldn't expect till next spring because he's got that 5th-year option. Really don't need to mess around with that quite yet. So, but Leonard and Smith are right around the corner.
And let's not forget, these teams are getting so good at structuring deals differently to make more room. Basically, they're using these sign-on bonuses as ways to pay the players and not take hits to the cap. I mean, they're doing all sorts of stuff. I can't remember his name down in Tampa. Has been doing some real tricky stuff. He managed to keep a whole 22 starting roster together. So people they can figure it out. We got to move along. Bobby Okuriki, like you said, full-time at the Mike position this year. He's going to be the full-time starter. What does he need to improve on specifically to have an impact for the defense this year?
So I think Bobby Okuriki, the biggest thing, I mean, we know he's a fantastic athlete, and we know that towards the end of the year, he was the better player than Anthony Walker. Mm-hmm. What Bobby Okuriki needs to improve on, number one, is also kind of helping Darius Leonard fill that void as a leader on that defense. But number two, mostly, is I think Bobby Okuriki has been in so many positions to force turnovers, but he hardly has any turnovers to his name in the NFL. So some of that was just dropped interceptions. Some of that was just wrong place, wrong time. But I think Bobby Okuriki, and for this Colts defense, really, to get where they want to get, the Colts defense shoots for 40 turnovers every year and trying to continue to build on that. Bobby Okuriki needs to show that athleticism and really can up that playmaking ability at the linebacker position, because we know Darius Leonard's going to get sacks, get interceptions, force turnovers, do all that. Bobby Okuriki needs to take that next step, because if he doesn't, then I think his job could be in jeopardy, or the Colts might be looking to draft a replacement for Bobby Okuriki here, because Okuriki's entering his third year. Next year will be a contract year for him. The Colts want to see Okuriki really take the reins of that starting Mike linebacker spot and become that playmaking Mike linebacker next to Darius Leonard that can really anchor that linebacking group for years to come.
I mean, and that Mike linebacker position, that's Brian Urlacher, Ray Lewis, correct? You know, those are the names. Mm-hmm. That's the position you usually, you know, think of when you think of the linebacker on the team. So yeah, a guy like that, he's got to start causing some turnovers. I really like that. Especially, I mean, future Hall of Famer Pat McAfee said it was so when he called Bobby Okuriki's name at the draft. So, I don't have a whole lot of X's and O's talk on Okuriki for him to improve, but I think I do agree with he needs to take more of a leadership position this year. Anthony Walker was kind of the brains of the operation too, and Okuriki, Stanford guy, should be pretty smart. He can play that role as well. Mike has a lot of responsibilities pre-snap. So I assume he's going to be able to take that role on and do it well.
Right.
Go ahead.
While Darius Leonard is the one that has the green sticker on the back of his helmet, which means he's got the mic in his helmet that Eberflus calls in the plays. Darius will call out the plays, but it's really the responsibility of the mic to get everybody lined up correctly. And that's what Anthony Walker did so well. Because like you said, Northwestern guy, very brilliant. Chris Ballard has said whatever he'll want to be when he retires, whether it's a head coach or a GM in this league, Anthony Walker will be able to do it. Bobby Okuriki, Stanford guy, former Eagle Scout. The guy has an incredible mind as well. So that's what his primary responsibility is going to be pre-snap, making sure everybody is all lined up properly, just like Anthony Walker did.
I like Bobby Okuriki. I hope he has a good year. Now that third position, the same spot, Andrew, who's going to start? Who do you think is going to start? Give us a list of the potentials.
Yeah, so the Colts very rarely are in their base defense where three linebackers are on the field. Mm-hmm. Usually it's just those two, Darius Leonard, Bobby Okuriki. But when they do have a third, that's that Sam or that strong side linebacker position. And I think as of right now, the favorite would have to be Zyre Franklin to be the guy that comes in and is the starter there. Zyre Franklin is a team captain for the Colts on special teams. So again, leadership of this linebacker group. So I think he could come in there when Darius was injured or when other linebackers were injured and they needed a replacement. Zyre Franklin was one of those guys that could come in and really be that for them if they needed to in a pinch. I think he's going on his fourth year with the Colts. So again, he knows the Matt Eberflus system very well. So I think he could be the starter heading into camp. That could always change, obviously, because another guy that you need to kind of keep an eye on is EJ Speed. Mm-hmm. The Colts really like EJ Speed's athleticism. He's been making plenty of plays on special teams, and he was the backup Sam last year to Bobby Okuriki. So we'll have to watch. I think those two are primarily, when you're talking about other guys like Jordan Glasgow, Matthew Adams, those guys are primarily special teams players, and that's really where the Colts like to keep them. But I think if the Colts do go in a three linebacker set, it's either the edge I would give is the Zyre Franklin, but don't rule out EJ Speed either.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't have anything else on linebackers. Do you have anything else?
I think the linebacker group, again, is going to be a very solid group. I really like the depth at linebacker. And I think if Bobby Okuriki, like I said, if he takes that next step in his game and really ups his playmaking ability, the Colts are going to be just fine at linebacker and have a really strong second level.
Yeah, I think we're pretty set at the linebacker position. Let's talk some other Colts news. Of course, Andrew threw something from the NFL news into the Colts news, and now it's going to pop up later in the NFL news, but what do I know? Oh, the Colts place offensive tackle. Let's do some roster moves. Colts place offensive tackle Eric Fisher on the PUP list, which that's what, 10 weeks?
Physically, that's. I mean, he can come off of it before the season even starts. Mm-hmm. Physically unable to perform list. If he's still on it come week one, then he wouldn't be able to return until after 6 games.
Okay, and we expect that. So
correct.
Defensive end Dio Odengbo is on the NFI. I don't
non-football injury list. That basically just means he's basically on the PUP list too, but he was put on the non-football injury list because he got his Achilles injury while he wasn't with an NFL team. So that's basically what that means. Still same timeline. I think he's a little bit behind in his recovery, but October, November, we're still expecting Odengbo to be back.
And defensive tackle Rob Windsor on IR. I didn't know about this. What happened to Rob?
They haven't really said anything. I mean, Chris Ballard's going to speak tomorrow. Frank Reich is going to speak on Tuesday. So we're going to kind of hear from them to see what maybe happened to Rob Windsor. But since he goes on IR, he's done for the year right now.
Isn't it 12 weeks?
Honestly, he was a fringe player to make. With it being typically it can be, but Joel Erickson of the Indy Star reached out to the Colts and they confirmed him that Windsor's done for the year. So whether he gets an injury settlement and the Colts cut him, Rob Windsor was a fringe roster player anyway. So his shot of making the roster was very slim in my opinion.
Yep. Okay. Former Colts safety Malik Hooker signs with the Cowboys. He, I think, visited twice. I probably didn't make too much. Happy he found a spot.
Yeah, I think it's just a 1-year deal, but Malik visited them earlier in the offseason. He was talking with the Dolphins as well as the Steelers, but ends up going back to Dallas on a 1-year deal. And I mean, Malik Hooker's a good person. He's a good guy. So I wish him all the best. He couldn't stay healthy with the Colts. So hopefully he can get it together and he can have a solid career elsewhere.
Yeah, he played for my least favorite college team, then was on my favorite football team, and now is off to another one of my least favorite teams in Dallas. So. Yeah, okay. Glad he enjoyed his couple of years here. Let's move it along, Andrew, to the NFC North breakdown. If I can get my ducks in a row here. Obviously, first team we're going to talk about is the Green Bay Packers, who won their division last year. Big questions at the quarterback position for the Green Bay Packers. Had to bury a guy on Twitter the other day. He's trying to tell me the Packers are still going to be a great team with Jordan Love if Devontae Adams can't get his contract situation figured out too. No chance in hell. The Green Bay Packers. Sorry, Kay. Sorry. I know you're watching, you're listening. I'm sorry, but your Packers, if Aaron Rodgers is not there and Devontae Adams is unhappy and ends up holding out as some contract talks have stalled, the Packers are in a lot of trouble. But let's talk about their free agency. They pick up the boat, Blake Bortles, for a backup quarterback position. They just got to have a body in camp if Aaron decides not to show up. Speaking of Aaron again, apparently there's now betting odds on DraftKings, PointsBet, FanDuel that are favoring Aaron Rodgers retiring this week. So forgot about that little piece of news. So we got an interesting week coming up. We got Darius Leonard getting broke off. We got Aaron Rodgers maybe retiring. Who knows? But we'll see. They also pick up offensive linebacker, outside linebacker Devondre Campbell. That's really in free agency. They're never super active. They did re-sign Aaron Jones for a 4-year, $38 million deal. Cornerback Kevin King, tight end, great tight end, apparently, Andrew. This great tight end, Mercedes Lewis, gets 2 more years, $8 million. Hilarious to me. Great tight end. He used to be real good. Now he's good. Previously extended, that I think this happened before the end of last year, David Bakhtiari. They do lose tackle Rick Wagner. Center Corey Lindsley cashes in with Chargers for 5 years, $62 million. And running back Jamal Williams is off to Detroit.
Yeah, I think it was good that they kept Aaron Jones. Kevin King was for me because he gave up so many plays in the playoffs last year. But you're absolutely right. It's all going to come down to whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not. And honestly, my gut feeling is that Aaron Rodgers will show up to training camp and be business as usual. I mean, I could be wrong. I have no info on it, but just a gut feeling. I think he shows up, and I think my prediction will be is he shows up, he goes throughout this year with Green Bay, and then next year I think Green Bay, because his contract's a lot easier to move next year because of the implications of not having that dead cap. Then I think he'll be moved after next year.
The only thing causing me to think that he will show up is because, one, he only has an issue with one person in the organization. That's the GM or whatever his name is. He likes his coaches. He likes his teammates. He loves the fans. So at this point in your career, he's probably got 4, maybe 5 years left, maybe, because he doesn't want to be Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. He said he doesn't want to play deep into his 40s. Why give up 1 year of football? You know what I mean? If you only have a few left, that's the real reason I'm like, he probably ends up showing up, but I don't think he shows up this week. I think he'll go ahead and take some fines until he feels like showing up, but we'll see. Draft, they had 9 picks. Round 1, pick 29, cornerback Eric Stokes from Georgia. Round 2, pick 62, center. So they replaced Corey Linsley here. Josh Myers from Ohio State. And round 3, pick 85, wide receiver Amari Rodgers from Clemson, who was their last rookie to be signed to his deal. Actually, I just saw that tweet from Field Yates yesterday. And then, everything below that's whatever. You know anything about any of those guys? Eric Stokes, we didn't. I don't think we talked about him, did we, in our draft preview?
Eric Stokes, no, he's an okay corner. I could see him possibly being a replacement for Kevin King. You talked about Josh Myers being the replacement for Corey Linsley, and I was really high on Amari Rodgers. I really like Amari Rodgers' game. I think he's got really good talent, and I think he'll be a surprise weapon for this Packers offense. Yeah, and that's what this team does, is built through the draft. So, that's one thing we could definitely say about them, is they do draft well. So, probably have some good guys in there, and then not everybody works out. That's just life. Schedule, primetime games this year, 5 of them. Bye week is week 13. Notable games, they are at Saints week 1. And keep in mind, I'm not dying to watch any of these games unless Aaron Rodgers is playing. But at Saints week 1, a little rematch there. At San Francisco, Aaron Rodgers just always, had, at least the last couple of years, has always played questionably in San Francisco. But also you got the Kyle Shanahan connection to head coach Packers. Can you hear me? I'm not sure what you mean here.
What's the head coach? What's the head coach's name for the Packers?
Matt LaFleur.
Matt LaFleur. Thank you. Him and Kyle Shanahan are buddies. That's what I'm getting at here. Jeez.
Yeah, there you go.
So that makes it a little more exciting too.
We're live.
Yeah, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching us sucking fuck up live. At Kansas City, week 9. It's just, you always got to mention Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers, maybe. They do face the AFC North as well as the NFC West. So you got Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bengals, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, and 49ers. So they got all those games as well. They do have a real tough stretch. And this first team, their defense is real good at least, and we'll see how they do this year. But Washington football team, Cardinals, Chiefs, Seahawks, Vikings, Rams, and then a bye. Not a fun stretch.
Not a fun stretch, but I think they can handle. If Aaron Rodgers is there, I think they can handle it and do very well in that stretch, especially leading up to that bye. Because once they get to that bye, I think their schedule gets pretty easy after that.
Easier, yeah, and it all depends on, and we'll talk about them soon, how well the Vikings do this year. I didn't even realize, Andrew, until I started doing the research for this preview here. The Vikings did not finish second. The Bears actually finished second with an 8-8 record. Free agency, they pick up Andy Dalton, 1 year, $10 million, and then they go ahead and draft a guy that they'll eventually be starting over him. Outside linebacker Jeremiah Atauchu from Denver. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. Defensive end, Angelo Blackson from Arizona. And wide receiver, this is more than anything just because it's a popular name, Marquise Goodwin. We'll see how he does. Justin Fields, their big draft pick. We'll see how he does with the wide receivers they have on that team. They did keep and franchise tag Allen Robinson, so there's a little more help for whatever quarterback is starting. Defensive tackle gone from the team this year. Defensive tackle Roy Robertson Harris to Jacksonville, 3 years, $23.4 million. Cornerback Kyle Fuller to Denver. Left tackle Charles Leno to Washington. Kyle Fuller is a big loss. Cordero Patterson to Atlanta, and Trubisky to go back up Josh Allen in Buffalo. Who knows? Maybe they start to use Trubisky in an RPO type situation, but Josh Allen runs so well. I mean, maybe that's the reason they went and got Trubisky, because he has legs just in case something happens to Josh Allen.
Right. You don't have to change the offense too much if Allen does get hurt. Trubisky will be riding the pine unless Josh Allen does get hurt. The Bears also just traded Anthony Miller to the Texans. I think it was either yesterday or a couple days ago. So that's another wide receiver that I thought had pretty good talent. Down to Houston. So yeah, the Allen Robinson situation, definitely interesting. They've been trying to hang on to him for quite some time. Didn't get a long-term deal done, but really, it's the biggest question is who's going to be the starting quarterback throughout the year. Is Andy Dalton going to hang on to it, or are we going to see Justin Fields sometime this year?
Definitely think it's Andy Dalton week one, for sure. Week one. You already know who I think is going to be the first rookie besides Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson to start. So out of the guys like Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, week one. Round 1, pick 11 they actually got this from the Giants, Justin Fields. Round 2, pick 39 from Carolina, Tevin Jenkins. Talked about him, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma State. Nothing else real notable?
Yeah, Jenkins is going to be the starting left tackle there. That's why they released Charles Leno Jr. So Jenkins is going to, he played mostly right tackle, and that's where I thought he would be in the league. Jenkins is going to switch on over to left tackle for the Bears.
Schedule, they got 4 primetime games by week in week 10. Notable games at Rams. Week 1 is Sunday Night Football. Plenty of tough teams, but they don't really go on any real tough runs, more than 2 to 3 games at most. Nothing else really, stuck out to me. And obviously, you know what the divisions they're playing. Vikings 7-9 last year. They're a team. Sorry, they're a team that typically kind of goes back and forth every other year. Good, not good, good, not good. So I expect they make the playoffs this year probably. Defensive tackle, they picked up defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson from the Giants, 2 years, $21 million. Cornerback Patrick Peterson from Arizona. Defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson from Cleveland. And cornerback Bashad Breeland, who I've talked about this before, especially when we talked about the Chiefs. I like Bashad Breeland. I think he's a good cornerback. So I think, he's not Kyle Fuller, but and now we're talking about the Vikings, not the Bears anyway, but he's good.
Yeah, he's a decent outside corner. I mean, he made plenty of plays for the Kansas City Chiefs over the years. So, I mean, that's where they really struggled last year. They had a couple young guys starting outside for the Vikings, and now you bring in Patrick Peterson, you got Bashad Breeland. I would say those guys are probably going to be your outside corners. They're a little older, but I mean, hey, they've got plenty of playmaking, plenty of experience behind them. So it's going to be a new look secondary for the Vikings.
It's a well-coached secondary too, so I expect them to do some pretty good things. Gone, Kyle Rudolph, longtime Viking, is now a Giant. Left tackle Riley Reif, free safety Anthony Harris, that's tough. And then kicker, longtime Viking as well, Dan Bailey. Not long time, I guess. He's only been there a few years because he was with the Cowboys before that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Draft 11 picks. That's a lot of picks. Round 1 got it from the Jets. They got Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech, a guy we really liked. Going to be starting most likely, and probably going to be pretty good. They had 4 third-round picks. Quarterback Kellen Mond, who some Viking fans are already saying he's going to be the starter, and they need to kick Kirk Cousins to the curb, blah, blah, blah. Give the guy some time. But I'll tell you this, Andrew, Chris Sims was right. Kellen Mond went faster and higher than people thought he was going to do. Chris Sims likes Kellen Mond a lot. They also got a linebacker, a guard, and a defensive end in that third round. Anything yet?
No, I do. I mean, we obviously like Christian Darrisaw. We thought he was an option for the Colts. They let Riley Reif. They cut him. Darrisaw is going to step in and be their left tackle from day one. And I think Darrisaw has Pro Bowl potential. So it's a good fit, definitely, to protect Kirk Cousins there.
Yep. 4 primetime games this year, bye week and week 7 a little early. Notable games, Dallas on Sunday Night Football in week 8, and that's really it. Their offensive line coach / run game coordinator, Rick Dennison, was let go this week. Andrew, Minnesota promoting assistant offensive line coach Phil Rosher to replace him. They let him go because he refused to get vaccinated. And unlike the players, the coaches are not protected by the union. The teams are fully in their rights to let a guy go if he refuses to get vaccinated. Teams are saying you have to be vaccinated if you're a coach. And if you opt not to, there's going to be consequences. And there's consequences for the players. We'll kind of talk about that in the NFL news. But people are throwing a fit like, oh, he should sue. He'd lose a lawsuit if he filed. There's nothing wrong with a team, an employer saying you got to be vaccinated in order to work for us. Plenty of places do it right now. Education institutions require vaccinations for you to go to school, all sorts of stuff. So people throwing a big fit over it. I mean, this is probably the first of multiple. This is going to probably be happening within the next couple weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But moving along here to the Lions. Free agency, they pick up, obviously, through trade, Jared Goff. Really interested to see that. Jamal Williams, already mentioned that. Brashad Perriman, who I believe is going to be a big help to Jared Goff, considering what they lost this year in the wide receiver department. I think Brashad Perriman is a lot better wide receiver than people realize. I talked about this last offseason when he was let go by Tampa Bay and went up to the Jets. I said that I think he was really underrated, still do. Not like he had somebody throwing him, not like he was on a team where he could shine last year. I don't want to shit on what's his face, quarterback. But I mean, because he was in the same situation, and it was the Jets. So we'll see if Brashad Perriman has any better year. Apparently, I can't say names today. They hung on to defensive end Romeo Okwara, 3 years, $37 million. Matt Stafford obviously gone in that trade. Kenny Galladay, not Holiday, to the New York Giants, 4 years, $72 million. The Giants seem to be doing everything they can to give their quarterback as many weapons as they can. I can't think of names today. Daniel Jones. Thank you, Brandon.
Daniel Jones. There you go.
Wide receiver Jamal Agnew, I don't even know who that is, but he went to Jacksonville, 3 years, $14.25 million. Wide receiver Marvin Jones, also to Jacksonville, 2 years, $12.5 million. Matt Prater to Arizona. Tight end Jesse James was cut. Amendola was cut. Adrian Peterson unsigned. I don't actually know if Amendola was cut or if he just hasn't been re-signed or signed anywhere else, but he's gone. The draft they had. Go ahead.
The Lions lost a lot of playmakers. I mean, you're talking about Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones. I mean, Jared Goff doesn't have very many weapons to throw to. So Jared Goff's going to have some trouble this year. And I kind of feel bad for him because he was at the Rams where he had Cooper Kupp, he had Robert Woods, and he was able to give those big time wide receivers, those athletes, the ball. And there's really just, I mean, unless someone really comes on for the Lions, he doesn't have too many guys to throw to. So Jared Goff is going to probably struggle this year.
Yeah. I mean, he had a golf course, like a golf hole in his backyard, and now he lives in Detroit. So he's struggling as it is. He's moving from LA to Detroit. So, 7 draft picks, round 1, pick 7, Penei Sewell, offensive tackle at Oregon. Everybody thought he was best tackle in the draft, and they got him, so at least he's not going to be getting blindsided, Jared Goff.
I really like the Lions offensive line. I think they've got a really good offensive line. I mean, they've got Frank Ragnow at center. They have, I think it's Taylor Decker is the guy at left tackle. Penei Sewell is going to be their right tackle, it seems. So they've got a really solid offensive line. It's a build around Jared Goff. Now they just need to start getting those weapons, those wide receivers around Goff as well.
Well, and they got a new coach this year too. I forgot to mention, and he's a hard-nosed son of a bitch. I mean, he's trying to go get some mean dudes for this football team. So we'll see how they do this year. But round 2, pick 41, Levi Onwuzurike, maybe defensive tackle,
close.
Defensive tackle from Washington. Round 3, pick 72. Ifeatu Melifonwu, cornerback from Syracuse that we talked about in our draft preview. If we hadn't, I probably would have screwed that one up too. But schedule, primetime 1 game by week 9. Across the pond against Chicago, they do have a game. It sounds like it's like a 9:30 a.m. And at Rams, week 7. That's really about it. That's nothing exciting for the Lions this year. So.
Yeah, the Lions are up. The Lions are going to have a rough season, and I think mostly because of the lack of playmakers on the offense. I mean, unless they become this team that really runs the ball, like with DeAndre Swift, and he starts going off, maybe. But I think it's going to be. I mean, the Lions are rebuilding, and I think they want to try to rebuild, not do a fast rebuild. They want to do a slow rebuild, kind of rebuild the trenches first, and kind of work their way out, which is smart. But when you don't have like an Andrew Luck type quarterback, you've got a Jared Goff type quarterback that really doesn't elevate the talent around you. It's going to be a struggle these first few years.
Your prediction, I'll do my prediction first, Andrew, just because it's got caveats. Okay, if Aaron Rodgers plays and Devontae Adams doesn't hold out and he plays, Packers will win the division, then Vikings, Bears, Lions. That's my guess. Now, if Aaron doesn't play and Devontae Adams does, either way without Aaron Rodgers, I'm going Vikings, Bears, Packers, Lions.
Okay, I think if Aaron Rodgers plays, I will go Packers, Bears, Vikings, Lions. Same exact orders last year because I think Justin Fields is going to come in and he's going to be very good for the Bears. I really like the Bears. I really like the Bears team. I think they're a pretty decent team. I just think they were a quarterback away, and I think Justin Fields is going to have some success. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't play, then I think the Bears win the division. I'll go Bears, Vikings, Packers, Lions. So I'll kind of switch the Bears and the Vikings. Okay. I'm higher on the Bears than you are.
My problem with the Bears right now, unfortunately, Coach of the Year, Matt Nagy, I'm not a big fan of just watching the Bears these last couple of years because, like you said, I think they've had a really good team and they've squandered that. I think they've had a lot of talent and they've not won enough football games for the talent they've had. So that's the reason I kind of lean against the Bears this year is the coaching, and I don't have a bunch of faith in not Trey Lance, sorry, but Justin Fields. Let's move it around to some news around the league, Andrew. NFL informed clubs this week that if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week season in 2021 due to a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit and will be credited a loss for playoff seeding. So I mean, it'll count as a loss. And on top of that, I think there was some news that the players also would be forfeiting their checks if they were the cause or whatever. So the NFL is doing everything they can to force players to get vaccinated. I read this originally. I don't think the NFL is going to try very hard to reschedule games that have to be canceled either, to be completely honest. I really don't think they're going to try as hard as they did last year. It could cost them money, but I think, again, it's just they're really trying to get their point across. What do you think about this?
Yeah, and they're really making it hard for they're going to try to make life hard for guys that don't get vaccinated. And again, they're a private company, they can do that, but they really want their guys to be vaccinated, and they don't want there to be an outbreak. Honestly, I think it doesn't really change my stance on it. I think if you want to get vaccinated, you should. I'm not going to fault anybody that doesn't. I think people should get vaccinated, but what really kind of made me a little upset this week is seeing all these fans just constantly berate these players on social media about getting vaccinated or not. It's like, one, it's not your choice. I mean, two, this is their lives, not yours. You don't have a say, regardless if you're a fan of a team. That doesn't give you input on their life decisions. Right. So cut it out. Don't be an idiot on the internet, and let these guys make their own decisions for themselves. I don't care if you're a season ticket holder or what you are. Just because you invest in this team doesn't mean you have an effect on these men's lives. So, like I said, I hope people get vaccinated, but at the same time, it's their decision. Respect their decision. Yeah,
I'm all about you being able to make that choice yourself. I don't think fans should be shit-talking players who are opting not to. I just want the players to know that there's going to be consequences for them. The NFL is making sure of it if they don't. You know what I mean? Just being treated differently than the vaccinated players, and this whole forfeit thing now. I mean, they're really trying to get the point across. So, and I'm with you. I think you should get vaccinated. We're both vaccinated. We're microchipped, as some people think. So, that's all we have to say about it. 49ers and, like you said, linebacker Fred Warner agree on a 5-year, $95 million contract extension, making him the highest paid off-ball linebacker in the NFL for about a week.
Yeah, and Fred Warner's a fantastic linebacker. He's great in coverage, a great tackler, a great person too, team captain, very good in the community there. So Fred Warner deserves every single dollar of this. He's just not going to be the highest paid linebacker for long, because Darius Leonard on a per year average will be more than Fred Warner. But for that contract, Fred Warner, well deserved.
Yep. As I mentioned before, Packers and wide receiver Davante Adams have stopped their long-term extension talks with no current plans to resume as Adam heads into the final years of his contract. That's what I was talking about earlier. This is a situation where Davante Adams could hold out. I haven't heard anything about him holding out yet. For all I know, he'll show up this week, but I was just making the point, that it could happen. And if it does, that is trouble for Jordan Love if Aaron Rodgers also pulls a retirement or whatever he chooses to do.
Yeah. And I don't think Adams will hold out, just because when he was talking earlier in the offseason about what Rodgers was doing, he said that people can do what they want. I'll support them, but I came from nothing. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to hold out. I'm not going to risk losing any money that I can't. So Adams will be there. He's a professional. But it could get dicey. I mean, the Packers could always franchise tag him. They don't like to use the franchise tag. If they don't, there's a guy over in Las Vegas that played with Davante Adams in college by the name of Derek Carr, it was outwardly said he would love to have him in the silver and black. So Derek Carr, Davante Adams combination out in Vegas, that'd be pretty fun to watch.
Getting franchise tagged this year, though, it was not as big of a deal as it is in other years, just because everybody's going and signing 1-year deals right now anyway. So, Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas expected to miss the start of the 2021 season after undergoing surgery to repair the ligaments in his ankle in June. Could be out until November. I see the Saints and wide receiver Michael Thomas breaking up before too long.
Very well could, and it certainly doesn't help them trying to get a new quarterback acclimated to their offense, whether it's Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. Either one, it's going to be a new full-time starter in New Orleans, and when one of the best wide receivers in the league is going to be out well into November, it's going to be tough for them to get going.
Rams running back Cam Akers suffered a torn Achilles while training. Thank you. Will be out for the 2021 season. That one made me sad. I'm excited for the Rams this year. My buddy is a Rams fan. I'm really excited for Matt Stafford to be going to a new team, and I think the Rams are probably my Super Bowl pick for the NFC. So I was kind of bummed to hear that. Feel bad for him. Hope he gets well.
Yeah, he's a young running back. He's a good young up and coming running back as well. So that was definitely sad to see. And the Colts play the Rams week 2. So are they going to put it all on Matthew Stafford's back, or are the Rams going to have a replacement back that can fill the shoes of Cam Akers? We'll have to see.
All right, Andrew, that's it for NFL news. Let's move it along to your segment, the new kid at school. Andrew, who's our new kid at school this week?
The last new kid at school of the 2021 season will be Will Fries, and he was selected with the 248th pick in the 2021 NFL draft. He was born in Staten Island in New York, but he grew up in Cranford, New Jersey, and that's where he went to high school. So he attended Cranford High School, and we're seeing another theme in all these Colts picks. They're athletes in multiple sports. So he lettered in basketball and track along with football in high school. So he was a big dude, but man, he was an athlete. So he actually was moved up to varsity in football as a sophomore, and he played both tackle and guard. And that's going to be, you're going to see a common theme with just Will Fries in his position versatility. So as a junior, he helped lead Cranford to an undefeated 13-0 record and a state championship in 2015. And then after his senior year, he was actually seen as a 3-star recruit, and he was the number 11 recruit in the entire state of New Jersey for the class of 2016. So he ended up committing to Penn State in the summer prior to his senior year, and as he played well in his senior year, he started getting more interest from programs like Clemson, Wisconsin, Michigan. But he stayed loyal to Penn State and ended up going there, staying with his original commitment. So he did have a redshirt year at Penn State, but then from his sophomore year on, well, actually his freshman year, his redshirt freshman year, he entered into the starting lineup and was a key cog in that Penn State offensive line. He started 42 games altogether on the Penn State offensive line, and get this, again, all over that line. He had 9 starts at left tackle, 1 at left guard, 6 at right guard, and then 26 at right tackle. So he primarily played right tackle throughout his college career. And then as a junior, he was honorable mention All Big Ten as a junior playing right tackle. But then going into his senior season, Penn State had another tackle that they wanted to get out there to get the best 5 linemen on the field. So the coaches approached him about moving to right guard, and also because guard would probably be his better position at the next level in the NFL. Fries, great teammate, was more than happy to do it, so he switched over to right guard and ended up being pretty good for him. He ended up being second team All Big Ten as a senior, playing primarily right guard. And so the Colts took him in the 7th round. And what he brings to the Indianapolis Colts, first of all, is a big, wide body. The guy's 6'6", 309 pounds. And like I talked about before, he was lettered in basketball. He lettered in track along with football. So he's a really good athlete. And he's got experience all across the offensive line. And the Colts really like guys on the offensive line with position versatility, especially for their backups. So he can play guard. He doesn't have much experience at center, but he can definitely play guard. And in a pinch, he could probably go out and play tackle as well. But the Colts see him more as a guard. And he's got a really high football IQ. The kid's very, very smart, and he's really obsessed with getting better and watching film. So Will Fries' life pretty much revolves all around football. When he's not playing football, he's either watching film of himself critiquing it or watching film of other offensive linemen trying to steal their move and trying to get better that way. So for Will Fries, at least this year and maybe beyond, I think he's definitely going to compete for a roster spot this year. I think he will be one of the backup interior offensive linemen for the Colts this year. And who knows, when we talked about it in our offensive line preview, if Mark Glowinski is not re-signed or held on to, Will Fries might just be able to step in at that starting right guard spot next year for the Colts. If he continues to improve and with that hard work ethic that he has, it's a very good possibility. So final new kid at school 2021, that's Will Fries.
He's got to fight my boy Danny Pinner from Ball State for that guard position. All right, that's it. Go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the things at the Educated Fan _ or just the Educated Fan on Facebook. Go like that page, talk to us on there, comment on stuff. Instagram, same thing. Twitter, talk to us. Send us some questions or something you want to hear the answers to in the next show. We haven't really gotten a lot of listener questions. Let's try to ramp that up. Since you're here listening right now on YouTube, go ahead and click the like and subscribe button down below. Do all those things. But hey, thanks for listening. We know it was a long one. We kept it under an hour and 10 minutes by just a few seconds. So thanks for listening, guys. And until next time, go Colts.
Camp starts this week. Go Colts.
I fucking love football and I love you guys.